The Present, a Christmas story by Peter Hayes. Chapter 1. Christmas Stockings. It was Christmas Eve, and children everywhere were hanging out stockings, for their parents had told them that tonight Father Christmas would come down from the North Pole and fill the stockings with presents. Some children put their stockings by the fire, some under the Christmas tree, and some at the end of their bed. "What will the presents be?" wondered the children. "Ah," said their parents, "that will be a surprise." "Then what kind of presents?" "Oh, lovely ones." "Will they be real presents?" "Yes, real presents that you can touch." "I mean, will they be proper, expensive presents, not horrid cheap stuff?" "Yes, darling, of course. Now go to bed." So the children went to bed and dreamed happily of the presents they would get in the morning. In the middle of the night, there was a jingling noise. It was Father Christmas, flying through the air, his sleigh pulled by reindeer with bells on their antlers. Father Christmas landed on the roof of the house. He crawled down its chimney and popped out of the fireplace. He filled the children's stockings with presents, then climbed back up the chimney and went on to the next house, or flat, or boat, or anywhere where there were stockings to fill. On Christmas Day in the morning, the children woke up feeling very excited. They rushed to open their presents. And this is what they found: a bag of marbles, a book, a bar of chocolate, a toy animal on a stand that wriggled when you pressed a button, a tube of bubble mixture, a blue train for boys, a pink fairy with a wand for girls, a balloon. The balloon was left unwrapped. Once you have blown them up, balloons are difficult to wrap. At the toe of the stocking was the very last present. It was a small round present, so small that you might not even notice it. It was a satsuma. About 5% of children really liked these presents. Another 5% of children, who had been well brought up, pretended to like them. But that left 90% of children who didn't like the presents and who didn't pretend to like them either. They had wanted expensive presents, and they made a huge fuss about it. They stamped and screamed. They kicked over the Christmas tree. They threw their presents out the window. They made such a racket that the whole world shook. Fortunately, Father Christmas didn't notice. He was back at the North Pole, fast asleep in his igloo. Chapter 2. An international conference. It was not only the children who were cross. Parents were angry too. Some wrote furious letters to the North Pole. Others went on the internet to attack Father Christmas on social media, to give him a bad rating and to send him an abusive email. But here there was a problem. Father Christmas did not seem to be on social media or to have an email address. Indeed, he did not seem to be on the internet at all. It was very frustrating. So, an international conference of the world's children was called to decide what to do about it. Some of the suggestions were silly, but eventually a girl read out what to do. "Let's give Father Christmas a computer. Then he can get us proper presents." The grown-ups thought that this was a good and sensible suggestion, so a specially prepared computer was wrapped in pink paper, tied with yellow ribbon, put on an aeroplane, and dropped at the North Pole. Father Christmas was reading thank you letters when the present arrived in his igloo. "Ho, ho, ho!" Father Christmas laughed. "It's a present for me." He tore off the wrapping, opened the box, and found the special computer. The elves were most excited. "A computer! A computer!" they cried. The reindeer sniffed at the computer, but were more interested in the wrapping paper, which they ate, along with the box. They would have eaten the card as well, but Ethel, the sensible elf, quickly grabbed it and read it. "Dear Father Christmas," the card began, "we, the children of the world, give you this computer so that this year you can get us proper presents, expensive ones, not like the cheap rubbish we got the last time." Ethel showed the card to Father Christmas. "What shall we do?" she asked. On the one hand, the children of the world seem rather rude and ungrateful, but on the other hand, it's a waste to give children things they don't want. Father Christmas just laughed. "Ho, ho, ho," and fed the card to a reindeer. "Now, what shall I do with this computer?" asked Father Christmas. "Play games, watch movies, buy stuff," suggested the elves. "Why, I know," said Father Christmas. "It will just fit perfectly." And he used the computer to mend the roof of the igloo. Chapter 3. When the Cat's Away. The computer stayed on the igloo roof while spring turned to summer and summer to autumn. Autumn was the time of year when Father Christmas left the North Pole to visit Santa's grottos in the shopping malls. The elves made Father Christmas a cup of tea and a slice of cake before he left, and Ethel, the sensible elf, and Right Lad rubbed his shoulders. Father Christmas sighed. "I know it's my duty to go, but I'd really rather stay here," he said glumly. "Poor noble Father Christmas," said Ethel sympathetically. "Yes, poor Father Christmas," said Right Lad. "You'd better hurry up and go, otherwise you'll be late." As soon as Father Christmas had gone, Right Lad and the gang climbed up onto the igloo to get the computer down. "Hey!" shouted Ethel. "Father Christmas didn't say you could do that." "Yes, he did." "He didn't." "He did," said one of the gang. "He said, 'Sort out the presents while I'm gone, and we need the computer to sort them out.'" Ethel was not sure about this. If Father Christmas had wanted them to use the computer, why had he stuck it on the roof of the igloo? But, there again, the card from the world's children had said that the computer was for getting presents. While Ethel the sensible elf puzzled, Right Lad and the gang gathered round the computer and switched it on. For a moment nothing happened. Then there was a flash of light and a white dot appeared in the middle of the screen. The dot grew, changed colour, and started to spread. "Look," said the elves excitedly, "a beautiful picture. There's a sandy beach, and surf from the waves, and a red sunset, and trees." Ethel looked, but all she could see was an elephant's skull. Now a green rectangle with the word "Enter" appeared in the middle of the screen. "Stop," said Ethel. "Don't press that button. I don't trust this computer. Switch it off." But the elf gang ignored her and pressed Enter. Ethel turned away. She went back to the igloo and filled the hole with snow. Laurence, the ladybird-nosed reindeer, helped her. Then they both went to bed. But Right Lad and the gang sat staring at the screen, and the other elves and reindeer joined them. They stared and stared until deep into the night. Then they fell into an uneasy sleep. Chapter 4. In the Night. Once the elves and reindeer were asleep, the special computer started to grow. Wires sprouted from its sides and nosed across the snow. Then the icy night became lit by strange colours. Whole buildings began to grow from the wires, and, bathed in the light of the computer, the sleeping elves became older, and the reindeer slimmer. Chapter 5. Trouble. By morning, everything looked quite different. As well as the computer, there was now a call centre, warehouse, coffee shop and gym clustered around the North Pole. The elves woke up and immediately filed into the call centre and warehouse to work. The reindeer went to the gym. Laurence woke up and found them exercising in there. "Hello," he said. "Can I join in?" "No," they said. "Go away." Ethel woke up. How things had changed. She looked around and found a 3-spike fence and a security camera. She had a cup of coffee. Where has the coffee shop come from? She wondered. Then the reindeer walked past. They looked different. What was going on? Ethel started to explore the buildings. She opened the door to the call centre and found rows of elves sat in front of computer screens. They were talking into mouthpieces. "Hello, I'm speaking on behalf of Father Christmas. Is there a child in the house?" she heard one saying. "I need to speak to them. No, I'm not trying to sell anything. I just need to ask a few questions about what presents they want." A manager elf came up. "You're late," she said. "What's going on?" asked Ethel. "Father Christmas never asks children what they want. When they send him letters, he feeds them to the reindeer." "Don't ask questions, just follow these instructions," said the manager elf, handing Ethel a sheet of paper. "Now get to your seat and start phoning." "Certainly not," said Ethel. She left the call centre and entered the warehouse. On the door was written, "Father Christmas Incorporated. No present too big." Inside, elves with orange jackets were stacking shelves with gifts. "These aren't Father Christmas presents," said Ethel. "Yes, they are," said the elves. "They're not. They're expensive brand-name presents marketed by big companies." "Well, that's what children want." "But Father Christmas presents are cheap." "That's nothing to do with us," said the elves. "Now stand aside. You're making us wobble." "I knew they shouldn't have turned on that computer," muttered Ethel. She went back outside and was just about to visit the gym when, from around the corner, she heard a snuffling noise. It was Laurence, the ladybird-nosed reindeer, and he was crying. "Why, what's the matter, Laurence?" asked Ethel as she ran to comfort her friend. "The other reindeer won't play with me," sobbed Laurence. Now this made Ethel angry. "All this computer business has gone too far," she exclaimed. "I'm going to get Father Christmas to put a stop to it, at once." First, she strode over to the other reindeer, who were drinking coffee, and ticked them off. Then she marched back to the call centre so she could phone Father Christmas and tell him what was going on. But here she had a problem. Father Christmas's phone number was not on the call centre list. "All right," said Ethel. "I'll go and use the old-fashioned telephone instead. Come on, Laurence." The old-fashioned telephone was about half a mile away from the North Pole. No one was using it, and Ethel got through to Father Christmas straight away. "Father Christmas," Ethel said, "guess what's happened while you've been gone? The elf gang's switched the computer on." "The elves have got sandwiches and butter scones," said Father Christmas. "Well, I like butter scones too." "You can't hear properly," Ethel explained. "I'll talk louder." "It's all gone wrong with the presents, and they are being horrid to Laurence," she shouted. "You're all having a sing-song and giving porridge to Florence," said Father Christmas. "What fun!" Ethel put the phone down. "It's no good," she said. "He still can't hear. Let's go back." But when Ethel the sensible elf and Laurence the ladybird-nosed reindeer returned to the gate, the guards refused to let them in. "ID," said Right Lad, who was one of the guards. "What do you mean, ID?" "You've got to have ID. No ID, no entry." "But I don't need ID," said Ethel. "You know who I am." "No, I don't," said Right Lad. "You could just be pretending to be you." Well, what about Laurence? He's obviously Laurence. Look at his nose.
Where's his ID then?
He doesn't have one.
Exactly. He could be anyone. Go away.
Ethel and Laurence searched for a gap in the three-spike fence, but the fence had grown all the way around the North Pole, and the guards in the watchtowers threw snowballs at them. So they went back to the old-fashioned telephone and tried to call Father Christmas again. "We can't get over the three-spike fence, and the elves are pelting us with snow."
Oh, good. You've discovered a lucky three-leafed clover, and the tarts are helping you eat dough. Yes, dough tastes nice in a tart.
Ethel sighed and put the phone down. "He still can't hear," she said to Laurence. "We're going to have to switch the computer off ourselves. But how shall we get past the guards?" Chapter 6. Secret Cupboard. Close by the old-fashioned telephone was Father Christmas's secret cupboard. Ethel, the sensible elf, would not normally go into this cupboard, but as this was an emergency, she did. And after searching around, she found one of Father Christmas's spare beards and an old set of his boots. "These are just what we need," she said. "I'll wear the beard, you wear the boots, and we can pretend to be polar explorers. Once we're through the gate, we'll go straight to the computer and switch it off." Two polar explorers approached the main gate. The guards looked at them suspiciously.
Hello,
said Ethel. Really, it was her.
"We are polar explorers searching for the North Pole. Can we come in?" "No, mate, you can't. You're at the wrong place," said Right Lad. "But the sign says North Pole." "Yeah, but it's just a name now. We don't need the pole anymore. We've got a new communications tower instead." Right Lad jerked his thumb over his shoulder. Laurence and Ethel looked up and saw, for the first time, an enormous tower disappearing up into the clouds. "But what about the North Pole?" "Chucked it away. Have a look over there," suggested Right Lad, pointing vaguely out into the snow. After searching around, Laurence and Ethel found the North Pole lying on its side. It was true. They had thrown the North Pole away. Now Ethel was very angry. She tried telephoning Father Christmas one more time. "It's absolutely terrible! They've put up an ugly big tower, and the pole's been dumped!" she yelled. But it was no good. Father Christmas still couldn't hear her properly. "It's perfectly wonderful. They've planted a beautiful little flower, and the mole's been jumped." "Well, I never," said Father Christmas. "A jumping bean." Ethel, the sensible elf, sighed deeply and put the phone down. But she had had another idea. She went back to the secret cupboard and came out with a packet of balloons and a ball of string. "Look, Laurence," she said, "these balloons are exactly what we need. I'll fly over the fence with them, and when I'm above the computer, I'll pop them with my pencil, float gently down to the ground, and switch it off." At first, the plan worked perfectly. Ethel held onto the balloons and jumped into the air. She floated safely over the three-spike fence, past the guards in the watchtower, and above the call centre. Then, through a gap in the clouds, she saw the computer. It was directly below her. Ethel felt behind her ear for her pencil. The pencil was gone. It must have fallen out as she jumped. With no way of bursting the balloons, all that Ethel could do was to hold on. She flew above the gym and over the far side of the fence. Then she was caught by the wind and was carried high up into the air and away over the polar ice cap. Chapter 7. A Surprise Meeting. Ethel landed safely at the very edge of the ice cap and waved at a passing ship. The captain sent out a boat to pick her up and welcomed her on board. The captain and his crew were kind and friendly.
They found a place for Ethel to have her own cabin and gave her a sailor's cap to wear, and they all liked her.
"Why don't you stay on the ship and sail around the world with us?" asked the captain hopefully a few days later.
"Thank you, but I must get back to the North Pole," Ethel replied.
"Well, at least stay until we get to Australia," said the captain.
"No, please put me ashore as soon as possible," said Ethel firmly.
The captain sighed. "Of course," he said, and dropped her off at his next port of call, in Hawaii.
Ethel, the sensible elf, brought herself an ice cream and wondered how to get home. Then she noticed a small queue of parents and children outside a hut and went over to see what was going on. Above the door of the hut were the words, "Santa's Grotto." Ethel gasped. Could it really be? She peeped inside the hut, and her ice cream nearly popped out of its socket. Those boots! She was sure that she recognized them. Ethel went to join the back of the queue, and by the time she had finished her ice cream, it was her turn to see Santa. Father Christmas, for it was he, did not recognize her at first.
"Hello, little girl," he said. "What would you like for Christmas?"
"Father Christmas, it's me," said Ethel.
"A balloon?" suggested Father Christmas, who still did not seem to realize who she was. "A pencil case?"
"I said it's me," said Ethel, taking off her sailor's cap.
"Oh,
said Father Christmas. "Father Christmas," said Ethel firmly, "you must come home at once."
"I can't hear you," said Father Christmas. "I've got a bit of wax in my ear."
"I said, you must come home at once." Father Christmas sighed deeply.
"Oh, all right,"
he said. Chapter 8. What happened to Laurence? When Ethel the sensible elf was blown away by the wind, Laurence raced to help. But the wind was strong. Soon she was just a dot in the sky, and eventually she disappeared into the distance. For many days Laurence followed the direction of the wind across the polar ice cap, until finally he reached the sea. There he found a single balloon. When she had boarded the ship, Ethel had, of course, taken her balloons with her to put in the balloon recycling bin, but she had left this one behind by mistake. Laurence looked out over the ocean. There was no sign of Ethel. He turned around and walked slowly back towards the North Pole. He felt very sad. When Laurence the Ladybird-nosed reindeer got back, he didn't know what to do. Then he saw Ethel's pencil lying in the snow. He picked it up and put it firmly into one of his antlers. Having the pencil made Laurence feel a little bit better. Ethel the sensible elf was brave. She would have tried with the balloons again, he thought. So I must be brave too, and try for her, and not drop the pencil. Laurence opened Father Christmas's secret cupboard and got out some more balloons, but it was no good. He could not blow them up properly, and instead of floating into the air with them, they hung limply from his mouth. Laurence realized that there was only one thing to do. If he could not float over the three-spike fence, he would have to jump over it. Laurence ran towards the fence and jumped as hard as he could. It was a great jump. The spikes poked up towards him, but they could not reach him, and he landed safely on the other side. Now, all he had to do was find the computer. The guard elves had seen Laurence's great jump. They came running after him, shouting, "Stop! Stop!" Laurence took no notice. He was a deer and could run much faster than they could, and he did. He ran straight through the warehouse and right across the tables by the coffee shop. Then he spotted a wire. Laurence carefully followed the wire this way and that until it led him all the way back to the computer. At last he had reached the source of the trouble. Laurence raised his hoof to switch the computer off. But then he paused. Which button was the off button? Laurence did not know. He started pressing one button after another, but none of them worked. The computer stayed switched on. Like most computers, it was designed to be easy to switch on, but hard to switch off again. Laurence started to stamp on the buttons. Stamp, 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 then crash! His hoof went right through the computer so that it was stuck on his foot. He poked at it with his antlers, and it got stuck on them too. Laurence reared and jumped to try and rid himself of the computer. As he did so, great cracks appeared in the ice, and the buildings began to tilt and wobble. The elves and the other reindeer ran to safety, but Laurence kept battling the computer. Finally, he shook himself free of it and trampled it into little bits. By now, a great hole had appeared in the ice. The buildings started to sink, and all the expensive presents poured out of the warehouse and bobbed around on the surface of the water. Little by little, the buildings, the fencing, and the security cameras were all swallowed up by the sea. The communications tower was the last to go under. Now all that could be seen were the presents, and soon they too started to sink. Down, down, down they went, until they disappeared into the murky depths. Chapter 9. Father Christmas Returns. As Laurence swam for the shore, he noticed a red bobble hat poking up above the snow. Who could it be? It was Father Christmas. With Father Christmas's help, Laurence climbed back onto land. And here there was another surprise, for holding on to Father Christmas's legs was Ethel the sensible elf. The two friends were overjoyed to see each other and rushed to hug one another. Then they went dancing across the snow. "Why, Laurence, you've saved my pencil," said Ethel. She took it from Laurence's antler and put it back behind her ear. Then she gave Laurence the flower she had picked up in Hawaii. Laurence ate it with great enjoyment. Meanwhile, the other elves had come running over to Father Christmas and put him in front of a warm fire with a nice hot cup of tea. Father Christmas sipped his tea and looked at the cheerful faces all around him.
"What a happy ending," he said.
But this was too much for Right Lad. "A happy ending?" he exclaimed incredulously. "What do you mean, a happy ending? Your computer's been smashed to bits. And what about all those expensive presents? Every one of them gone, forever, sunk to the bottom of the sea, and it's nearly Christmas. What are we going to give to the children?"
"Ho, ho, ho! Don't worry about that," said Father Christmas.
And he went off to his secret cupboard. Chapter 10. Deja Vu. It was Christmas Eve. The hole in the ice had frozen over again, and the North Pole was back in its proper place, next to a new igloo. The children had hung out their stockings, and now they were all fast asleep. And Father Christmas was flying through the air in his sleigh, with a sack full of presents. In the morning, the children woke up and rushed to open their stockings. And this is what they found. A packet of crisps, a tube of toothpaste, a toothbrush, a book, a beanbag in the shape of a frog, a train or a fairy, and a balloon. At the toe of the stocking was the very last present. It was a small round present, so small that you might not even notice it. It was a walnut. Usually Father Christmas ignored letters of complaint, but this year, after protests that his presents were sexist, he had given the train or the fairy to girls and boys at random. He had also changed them a bit, so that the train was pink, and the fairy carried a weapon. But this did not help matters. When the children opened their presents, 90% of them still made a huge fuss. They screamed and kicked. They mashed up their crisps and trod them into the carpet. They jumped on their balloons. They made such a racket that the whole world shook. But Father Christmas didn't notice. He was back at the North Pole, fast asleep in his igloo.